Hi folks, John Dunn here, RPG freelancer, publisher behind Melia Via. I am up here at Immortals Inc. with Mikey today.
What is up, John? How is it going?
Well, I feel like a fight today, Mikey.
Really?
I do.
You're feeling that in your soul?
I am feeling that in me. I think it's time for some serious fighting action going on.
Okay, well, I'm listening.
Well, I thought then we'd talk about This is the Ruby Phoenix.
Yes, because I'm always getting Starfinder and Pathfinder mixed up. Pathfinder's here. What are we talking about? What is this?
Pathfinder is the fantasy game, right? That Starfinder was kind of based on, same world setting. Yeah. But Fist of the Ruby Phoenix is an adventure path for Pathfinder 2nd Edition. I think it's about the 5th one that came out. Originally started to come out July of 2021, and this is the compilation volume of it. There's 3 adventures that compile together to make up the adventure path. Those are by James Case, Luis Loza, and David Ross. Names all right on the cover there. All 3 of them have a whole bunch of other Pathfinder writing credits, so this is not their first rodeo. They've done a fair bit of development work with the system previously, so you're getting an accomplished team that's working on this. And there's a million other people in the credits from Paizo who did, editorial, playtesting, graphics, all that good stuff. This compilation came out fairly recently, January of 23, and there is a 12-page free player's guide PDF that's available. You can just hop on Paizo's site and download that right away if you're interested in this. The reason I say, though, that feel like a fight, and the cover kind of gives it away here, is this is very much Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, the RPG campaign.
Nice.
Do you play those games?
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, yes. I can say yes. I've played Mortal Kombat, Tekken, and all these things.
Great. And did you see any of the movies?
Yeah, I saw the most recent. Was that a Mortal Kombat movie?
Yeah, there was a Mortal Kombat movie that came out maybe last summer.
It was on HBO Max or something like that.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I saw it in the theaters, but
it was
I dug
good.
it. I thought it was...
I saw the older ones, like the tournament style were on the island and stuff
absolutely.
like that.
Those were not as good, but most recent one was fun, and reading through this AP, it very much feels like it draws on those exact same sources. The core concept is it is a martial arts competition. It's a team competition, so your PC party is going to be fighting against other parties of combatants. At the highest level, there's 8 teams that get involved in the fight. One thing that's worth noting, this is not a campaign for first level adventures. This starts your characters off at 11th level, takes them up through 20. So maybe you want to grab characters who have played through some prior adventure paths, or maybe you want to custom make somebody for this. You might not have a character or a group of characters that, you've got and you go, oh, these are the guys that I want to put into a Mortal Kombat fighting scenario, right?
Yeah, because 11's pretty high, right?
11's, that's halfway through the trip to 20, and not a lot of campaigns even make it that far. So yeah, the premise of this big fighting tournament is supposed to have been held every 10 years for about 300 years. And there's one big prize that goes out to whoever wins it. It's one magic item that's recovered from this ancient vault. And there's just one item coming out of it. So the team members have to share it between them. Sometimes that means, one guy's the obvious leader of the team, so he gets it and maybe pays the other team members. And other times it may mean the team might have some friction coming out of that. But it does generally suggest that it's not going to be a huge team that is working together. And that single prize issue is also kind of set up as your framework for why there aren't huge parties of characters competing in each group. It's held on the continent of Tian Xia. That's part of the Dragon Empires. That's basically the other side of the world from the Aveston Inner Sea area where the vast majority of Pathfinder adventures take place. This region has kind of its own distinct species, many of which pull from the Advanced Player's Guide. So if you've got the Pathfinder 2nd Edition core rulebook, you're probably going to want to make sure you have that Advanced Player's Guide on hand as well for when you're going through character generation, or maybe grab that information from one of the resources that are out there. Dragon Empires doesn't have a ton of material that's been written for it for 2nd Edition. It is very Asian influenced, but that's that covers an awful lot of cultures. There was some material written for first edition. It's a little dated, but it's functional. Before I dive into the adventure, I do want to talk a little bit about the adventure toolbox, because before we get into spoilery stuff, I think it's worth talking about some of the game mechanics that are presented here. And this is kind of the last 64 pages of the book. Talks about how the tournament's set up with being able to compete as a team without a max size on it. You get detailed write-ups of the 7 teams who are expected to be the competition during the tournament. And you get a solid write-up of the city of Goka, which is one of the central locations where a lot of this adventure takes place. Then you get some feats, spells, weapons. One weapon that really jumped out at me was hook swords. Familiar with hook swords, Mikey?
Is it like self-explanatory?
Yeah, so there's swords
like with the hooks on them.
With the hooks on the end. You fight with them in pairs.
Very damaging.
Yeah. Tremendously damaging, and you can also use them to hook your opponent's weapon.
I'm like feeling my back. Like if I got hooked in the back, I don't think
it wouldn't be a good time.
Yeah,
they're a lot of fun to play around with. Catherine has a set of synthetic ones that we use at HEMA sometimes.
So you've welded them before?
Oh yeah, I've fought with synthetic ones, not
How's
the
that
sharp ones that try to
maneuverability
kill
though?
you.
Like is it like could you do some real damage with them?
Well, with the real ones, basically every edge on them is sharp. You could do lots of damage with them, and you can hook one in the other one and spin it around and hit people like that too, like a whip. It's a fun toy.
Yeah,
anyway,
I wouldn't try it.
They give you game mechanics for it here. There's also some new archetypes, and the stuff that's here really does a nice job of complementing that download with the player's guide to the setting. The player's guide is not reprinted in here, so you definitely want to make sure you grab that PDF and give it a good solid look. There's also creatures and some NPCs that are presented in the toolbox. We are now going to get into spoiler territory on the campaign.
Spoilers.
So if you're planning on playing this, stop watching now, please.
Stop.
There are 3 adventures that were part of the original AP, and the book follows that same format. First one is Despair on Danger Island, which, that sounds like a pretty wild name.
Sounds like the title of one of my dreams.
Well, it could be. It sounds kind of like the title of that D&D adventure cover that's on the wall behind you. Yeah, exactly.
What was the name of that one?
That was from the expert set, and I can't even think of the name of it right now, but I'm sure somebody
all we
that's
know
watching
is it's
this
pretty
will tell
cool.
me.
Okay,
yeah.
it's cool.
And this is the qualifying round for the tournament, and it happens on Banmu Island. And you get some fun stuff on there. There's rumors that kaiju are on the island.
Uh-oh.
Yep. And the teams, there's 32 of them. They're only on the island for 3 days. And each team starts off with 3 silver feathers. And every time they fight another team, they're supposed to wager some of those feathers. Once your team gets to 10 feathers, the first team to turn them in basically advances. There's a lot of team battles. There aren't really a whole lot of rules here, so you're allowed to kill people on the other teams. And the characters have an initial base of operations, which just happens to be a haunted temple.
Of course.
Yeah. There's a whole lot of encounters here that are kind of a mix of battling other teams and exploring the island. The adventure ends with a formal dinner that the characters have with basically the tournament sponsors, who happens to include the Empress of the Dragon Empire. And she kind of gives them a challenge that gives them an opportunity to earn her sponsorship. And that sponsorship element can kind of bypass a big chunk of the next adventure, which is called Ready Fight. And this one is set in Goka, the city that I mentioned you get some solid background on in the last part of the book. And the first part of this adventure is about impressing a sponsor. Well, if you manage to impress the Empress at the end of the last adventure, you're kind of short-circuiting that bit, so it makes that part a little bit faster and easier. And then we get into the tournament proper, which is a double elimination tournament where characters, as long as they don't lose twice, they get to the final bout.
Yeah, is it 2 consecutive losses, right?
No, just any 2 losses. So your
2.
first loss puts you in the loser's bracket, and then if you lose again, you get knocked out.
That's tough.
Now, the intent is the player characters are big damn heroes, so they're probably not going to get eliminated twice. And then when they get to the final battle, which it kind of presumes they will, a kaiju shows up. Yeah.
Of course.
Of course, a kaiju shows up.
True.
Yes. And then the last adventure is called King of the Mountain. And in this, the characters need to track down Hao Jin. Hao Jin is the sorcerer who is sponsoring this whole tournament. Finding Hao Jin is really, really hard. It kind of starts off with they have to summon a celestial dragon, which apparently is a thing that can be done, but requires an awful lot of legwork to do. Once they find the celestial dragon, they get transported to another plane where they essentially have to refight the entire tournament. But instead of going through it against mortal opponents, this time they're fighting hungry ghosts, which are essentially zombies. It's a fun adventure. In tone, it really does capture that fighting game feel throughout. It feels a lot like that movie version. We've got the compilation hardcover here. I believe the store still has a copy of the deluxe cover as well if you want the collector's edition. It is hardcover. It is full color throughout. There are an awful lot of maps and illustrations in here. 256 pages and $55. It's on the shelf up here at Immortals Inc. or available at immortalsinc.com. This sounds like something to be fun, and let me tell you, if I were running Pathfinder right now, I'd be pushing to play through this. Stop in, take a look, let us know your thoughts. Till next time, folks, good gaming.
Well said, my friend. Keep your guard up.